Hey guys, welcome back to Cruise Blog. It's Allie, and today we're going to be talking about the unwritten Carnival Cruise Line rules that smart cruisers follow and that you need to know. Let's get into it. While cruise lines have their own policies, there are definitely some unwritten rules that frequent cruisers swear by. These range from etiquette around hygiene practices to going with the flow when things don't work out as planned. One cruiser on Reddit asked the forum to share their unwritten rules when cruising. The post received over 300 comments from other sailors giving their best advice. From washing your hands to saving the elevators, for those with mobility issues, here are 14 unwritten rules of cruising that you should follow. Up first, don't let your stateroom door slam closed. Cabin doors are heavy and it's easy to forget that they can shut with a loud bang. Whether at noon or 1 in the morning, it can be surprisingly disruptive to other guests. Just remember that you also wouldn't want to be awoken by your neighbors returning with their doors slamming shut. One person commented, "We were on the ship and it was a sea day at 6:30 a.m. and our neighbors had a huge family with several cabins and they were in and out slamming their cabin doors. I was so frustrated because you don't have to slam your door. Just be mindful. Just because you are up early doesn't mean that everybody wants to get up at 6:30 a.m. while on vacation." Additionally, if you're staying in a balcony, you'll want to be mindful to close your veranda door before opening the hallway door. Otherwise, you risk creating a vortex of strong wind. Also, keep your balconies light off. Speaking of balconies, another person advised other guests to turn off their balcony lights when they're not in use. The person says, "Many of us enjoy sitting out at night and just enjoying a drink or listening to the sea and watching the stars. In addition, don't be obnoxiously loud on your balcony. It's easy to forget to mind your volume when relaxing on your balcony and enjoying the sea breeze. However, sound carries more easily than you think." One person commented, "If you have a balcony, the only thing dividing you from your neighbors is that thin partition. They can still hear you. Keep your volume reasonable, don't talk about anything you don't want other people to know, and don't smoke." In addition, be sure to wash your hands. Germs spread super easily on cruise ships, so you must play your part in helping keep everybody on board healthy. An easy way to do this is by frequently washing your hands. While cruise lines typically have hand sanitizing stations placed in high traffic areas like the buffet and the elevator banks, we also recommend washing your hands after playing in the casino, touching handrails, and especially after using the bathroom. One Reddit user shared a disgusting story about the cruise buffet involving his wife. The person said, "My wife watched a woman in the buffet lick her fingers and grab a serving utensil. She didn't yell or chastise her, just kindly mentioned to her that she had just licked her fingers and to have the buffet worker grab some new tongs." Person said her eyes got as big as saucers. She put her plate down and ran away crying. Sometimes people just aren't aware of their own actions. Another unwritten rule is to let people get off the elevator before getting on. Before thrusting yourself into the tiny elevator, let those getting off the elevator have space to safely exit. And better yet, if you're physically able, you should consider taking the stairs. More often than not, it's quicker than waiting for an elevator, especially if you're traveling one or two decks. It's also polite to hold the elevator for guests with mobility scooters. One user on Reddit said that their dad is in a wheelchair and they've learned to leave earlier for events to give themselves time to wait for an elevator because so many cruisers are more inconsiderate than they thought. Also, don't be a chair hog. One person advised on Reddit, don't save deck chairs if you have no intention of actually sitting in them. Another person added, "Last cruise we kept an eye on a pair of deck chairs with towels and a bag on them that nobody sat in for more than an hour. Finally, a woman waddled up to one, took something out of her bag, and I followed her to a pool in a different part of the ship, watched her climb back into the pool with people she obviously knew. I'm sure she had zero intentions of ever sitting on that chair, but made it so that no one else could sit on it either." Nobody wants their sea day to be ruined by selfish chair hogs, so instead of reserving seats for later, only claim the loungers you're actively using. Also, be sure to know your alcohol limits. One user on Reddit said they want people to know their alcohol limits while on a cruise. It's easy to indulge in a few more drinks than usual while on vacation, however, be mindful of your limits. Not only is stumbling around drunk on a cruise embarrassing, but it's also potentially dangerous. A rule of thumb that I like to follow is that for every 2 alcoholic drinks, whether a cocktail, a mixed drink, or a seltzer, grab a drink of water. Plus, this helps avoid dehydration in the warm, sunny Caribbean. While nobody is saying you can't have fun and enjoy Carnival's drinks, moderation is always key. You don't want to wake up feeling hungover and waste a day in bed with a raging headache. In addition, please don't let your children run wild. Cruises are an ideal family vacation because they offer something for everyone. Parents, for example, can enjoy poolside cocktails and adult-only comedy shows while kids bond with other children at Camp Ocean. That said, one user on Reddit warns parents to keep an eye on their children rather than ignoring their whereabouts and letting them get into trouble. Don't let your children run wild. I can't tell you how many parents let their teenagers and younger kids go unattended and running around the halls and causing trouble. Be a parent, they write. Also, another unwritten rule is to leave your Bluetooth speaker at home. Last fall, Carnival banned Bluetooth speakers from its ships, citing security concerns because speakers are noisy and can cause guests to potentially miss important safety announcements made over the PA system. This was a controversial move, with some guests praising the cruise line and others fuming over the decision. Though they're now banned, you shouldn't try and smuggle a speaker on board. One Reddit user says that nobody wants to hear your music and to warn others to think twice before doing so. On that note, you also shouldn't bring any prohibited items on board anyway, including steamers, irons, and heating pads, as they'll likely get confiscated and kept until you return to shore. Another unwritten rule is to practice your patience. A lot can go wrong on a cruise. For example, rough seas can cancel evening entertainment, while local conflict can divert ships to different ports of call. Rather than getting upset over things out of your control, one Reddit user says that you should just go with the flow. The person said, "Go with the flow. Things can happen, ports have to be skipped, excursions get canceled, and drinks get spilled, and rain will fall." They continued, "But you're still on vacation. There's still a lot of other things to do. Yes, be sad you couldn't do the things you wanted to do, but don't let it spoil your entire vacation. And for the love of whatever you believe in, don't try to ruin it for everybody else." Another tip is to avoid this embarkation day mistake. One key part of cruise planning is budgeting for pre-cruise travel. As someone who's been on over 50 cruises, I would never risk missing my cruise by flying to the embarkation city on the morning of departure. One user on Reddit agreed by saying, "Don't fly in the day of your cruise, you will regret it one day." Instead, you should fly in at least the night before. This gives you time to come up with alternative travel plans should your original flights be disrupted. Even if the weather is fine, cruise scheduling or aircraft maintenance can easily derail your plans. Waking up minutes from the terminal means that you'll have a more relaxed embarkation morning rather than scrambling to find a last-minute flight that will arrive on time or anxiously awaiting takeoff. In addition, don't be afraid to stay on the ship while in port. While exploring new ports is undeniably one of the best parts of cruising, don't forget that the ship is also a destination. Passengers aren't forced to disembark on port days. Instead, many seasoned cruisers love staying on board to take advantage of the ship's amenities with fewer crowds. One person on Reddit recommends that guests consider an onboard day, saying you'll have the place to yourself mostly. In addition, don't mess with other people's magnets on their cabin doors. While it's fun to check out everybody's doors, you should leave the decorations exactly where they are. For parents, this might mean keeping a close eye on your kids while walking the long hallways. Don't steal magnets, accessories, or whatever off of someone's door, says someone on Reddit. Number one, that is just rude. Someone spent their hard-earned money on that. And number two, we need that stuff to find our rooms, especially after a night or day of drinking. And finally, do not cut in line. With thousands of people trying to board the ship, order a drink, grab food from the buffet, and enter the theater for a show, you're likely to encounter lines on your cruise. One person on Reddit said, "Do not cut in line. If you do, don't expect other people to be quiet about it because that is a rule for life." To avoid lines, time your activities to avoid peak hours. For example, head to the buffet when it opens for breakfast rather than waiting until 8:30 or 9 a.m. All right, everybody, that is all we have for today. Thanks for tuning into Cruise Blog, and be sure and like and subscribe to our channel so that you can be notified every time we have a new video. Until next time, this has been Allie, and happy cruising.